Hello, friends, and thank you for joining me for another bonus episode in this series in which I'm sharing our family's experiences in the last year of our daughter Hannah's life, which spanned from February 2008 through February 2009. My desire is to process through the events of those 12 months with the perspective that 16 years has brought, and to point people to hope and Jesus along the way. I'm grateful that you've joined me. February 21st, 2008. After a restless night, it was time to load up and head to Arkansas Children's Hospital. I packed a suitcase for myself and for Hannah, which was difficult as we had no idea how long we would be there. Brad drove us the 50 miles to Little Rock, and I'm sure we must have discussed what was ahead of us, but I honestly don't remember anything from that drive. We arrived at the hospital, and after some confusion at the admissions desk, we ended up at the neuroscience clinic on the 3rd floor. As we walked into that area, I remember feeling as if I were watching someone else go through all these motions, that this couldn't be our family walking into a neuroscience clinic. No way was this our reality. But it was our family that was escorted into a room to wait for a visit from a doctor. We had only been in there a few minutes when a smiling face appeared at the door. It was our friend Tim, who had driven up to spend this morning with us. Words cannot express how much it helped to see a familiar face in such an incredibly foreign place. His presence was something solid to cling to, a link to reality in this surreal situation. He hung out with us all morning, helping the time pass more gently. He knew when to talk and when to be quiet, and faded into the background when hospital staff came in to speak with us. But his presence was an anchor throughout that topsy-turvy morning, and it was a great gift. The chief resident finally came by, accompanied by 3 med students, one of whom was a former student of Brad's. He explained to us that Hannah would be admitted and would remain in the hospital until after the surgery, which would be the following Monday or Tuesday. He ordered an MRI of her spine to be done that afternoon to be sure that the tumor had not seeded. I heard him say those words, but my mind could not process them, so I simply dismissed them as not being applicable to us. When they took her down for her MRI, they moved us to the 4th floor and put us in a tiny little holding room where our parents were brought when they arrived. There was an emotional time of reunion as we hugged and cried. They stayed with us for a while, then headed to our home where they would help care for Bethany for the next several days while Hannah was in the hospital. We were stuck in that holding room for quite some time. It seems that the floors were being waxed in the room where we were ultimately going to be placed. It was hard for me to process that people were actually doing mundane things like waxing floors when our daughter had just been diagnosed with a brain tumor. I mean, didn't they know? We were finally allowed to go to our patient room with nice, shiny floors where we waited for Hannah to be brought up from her MRI. The chief resident accompanied her as she was rolled in. He shared with us that the MRI showed that the tumor had not seeded. Of course not. I had already dismissed that possibility. He explained that the location of the tumor on her pineal gland blocked the flow of cerebral spinal fluid when she was lying down, which is why her headaches and nausea were so much worse in the mornings. He talked with us a little bit about what to expect with the surgery. They would begin with a less invasive procedure in which they would open up her skull, remove some cells from the tumor, and test them to see if they were a type that responds well to radiation. If that were the case, they would close her up and just treat her with radiation. If the cells were some other type, they would need to do a full craniotomy and remove the entire tumor. He prescribed doses of steroids to be administered, which would decrease the swelling in her brain and relieve her headaches. He also ordered an emergency shunt kit to be kept on the table beside her bed at all times, just in case. More words for me to dismiss. We weren't going to need that. Hannah was going to be just fine. 2 of Hannah's uncles arrived that evening and hung out with us. Hannah adored her uncles and enjoyed their company. The steroids were already making her feel better, and we were grateful for that. Brad went home to get some sleep and to spend time with Bethany, and Hannah and I settled in for our first night in the hospital.